Alright, so in order to get the configurations that we need, we're going to have to do a little modifying. So initially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my configuration manager, and you'll see I have a default and I have a churned part. The default is the finished part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename that to say it's finished part. So I'll right click it and I'm going to say properties, and I'm going to call this one finished part, and I'll hit OK. The churned part here, actually I want to get rid of, because what that was a part, I'll double click it so you can see, but it was an idea of what could be churned before doing the fourth axis, but the problem was it wasn't rigid enough for that. So we're going to do it a different way. So I'm going to take this configuration and delete it. I need to make the other configuration active. Then I can right click on the churned part and say delete, and say yes. Now if I go back here, you'll see it's got everything active. I go to configuration, it's just got the 1. Now I'm going to go up to dogleg part 3, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add configuration. And the first one I'm going to make here is going to be called first churn, and I'm going to hit OK. Now what we'll do with this is we'll make a rough type shape that'll be churned before we put it in the fourth axis. So I'm going to go back over to the feature manager, and I want to look at my part in the front plane. This way I can create all the geometry I need based off of the outline of this, or the silhouette. I want to do this on my front plane. So I'm going to activate front plane, and I'm going to tell it to sketch some lines. I'm going to start out, I'm going to go to the midpoint of this back edge, and I'm going to bring it up approximately half of 0.875, but you'll see I'm at 410, it's fine. I just want it to be vertical. I'm going to bring this over until I reach the coinciding of this edge. I'm going to click. I'm going to move up just somewhere over the part, click, and I come over to this edge. Now I want to get it vertical with this, so I'm going to come to here, and I'm going to follow the dotted line up till I'm horizontal. Click. Then I'm going to come down a ways here. Now I can come all the way down to here and make it coincide with this, but I really want it to be up a little above this. And I'm going to click. Then I'm going to move over till I'm vertical to my origin. Click. Bring it down to my origin. Click. And then back to the beginning. Now I have a full shape. Now I need to start smart dimensioning that. I'm going to smart dimension it. I want this end diameter to be 0.875 divided by 2. As you see, I'm dimensioning the radius. Then I'm going to go from this top edge to my axis, and I'm going to make that 1.250 divided by 2. And this first one here is going to be 1 inch divided by 2, or 0.5. Now you'll see this line isn't quite fully defined, and that's because it was never really snagged to this or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to choose this endpoint, and then I'm going to shift, and I'm going to click this vertical edge here. And I'm going to make those coincide. And hit OK. Now you'll see I have a fully defined sketch. I'm going to go into Feature, and I'm going to do a Revolve Boss Base. I'll choose my axis, the center line, and I'm going to hit OK. Now what I have is a fully defined part. I have a sketch of what would be my final shape after I do, right before I get to the fourth axis. Alright, so I have that one there. I'm now going to save this, and I'll save after each one of these just in case anything goes wrong. Go back to the configuration manager, and I'm going to utilize this as my next starting point. So I'm going to go up to my dogleg part 3 configuration and say add configuration. And this one will be called after fourth. And I'll hit OK. Now I need to make some changes to this. I need a hole through it, and I need this end cutout. Now this end cutout can be done with a pre-existing sketch, and so can this hole. So I'm going to go in here to my feature manager, and I'm going to I can create a new sketch on an end point of this or something like that, or on a plane. I'm going to do this one on this face, and I'm going to click on Sketch, and I'm going to choose the sketch icon. Now, it wants me to create a sketch here. I can make a new one, but what I can also do is go into the actual sketch where this was made. Now, I believe it was here, so under Cut Extrude 1, I can click Sketch 2, and you'll see that it highlights that, and I'm going to hit OK. And that will make a copy of that sketch. Now, I didn't actually get it to work in that case because I forgot to click Convert Entities. So we'll do the same thing again. I'll click the face, I'll click Sketch, I'll click on Sketch 2, and then I have to actually click Convert Entities to get it to work. Now I have that sketch. I'll hit OK. Alright, so I have that one. Now I want the one through the middle here. So I'm going to go in here to, I don't have a plane to actually choose. This one's a little too low. I want to pick the plane through the center here. So I'm going to look and I'm going to find that it's the front, that's the top plane. It goes through the middle of it. I'm going to tell it Sketch. And then this time I'm going to come find this cut. And it looks like it is under Cut Extrude 3. It's Sketch 4. And I'm going to Convert Entities, and you'll see it put it in the middle there, and I'll hit OK. Now I have the two sketches I need to create this part. When I go to Features, I can choose this sketch, just choose part of it, and I can do an extruded cut, and I'm going to cut into this part 0.450, and actually I think it is 0.5. Now it doesn't go all the way down. You'll see it's a little above, but that's actually where we want it. 0.5 deep. And I'm going to hit OK. So that's the slot that we're going to put through it, or slit. And now I'm going to use this sketch to do the cut up and down. Now, I can do this as a feature if I want, as a whole wizard, but it's actually just a lot easier to do it, in this case, with this circle. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do a extruded cut. It's asking me for it. I'm going to pick this circle. It's only going one direction. I want it to go two directions. And on both of them, I want it to go through all. And then you'll see that that's going through the entire part. And I'll hit OK. Now I have that configuration done. Alright, so now what I would need to do is make another configuration with this churn down. Now some of these configurations you don't really need. It's just that it's a lot easier to use it as stock. And when you're learning, it makes it a lot easier to see what's actually happening. So don't get too frustrated and say, well, why can't I just churn this or machine this without all these configurations? Well, you can. This just makes it easier for seeing what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to make another sketch, and this sketch is going to be on here. But before I do this, I want to actually make a new configuration. So I'm going to go to Dogleg Part 3, right-click, Add Configuration, and I'll call this one 0.375 shank. And I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to make the new sketch. I'm going to pick here. I'm going to tell it to create a circle from this origin. I'm going to just come out a little ways and hit OK. And I'm going to tell it to smart dimension this to be 0.375. Alright, now I'm going to cut this up to this face. So I'm going to come in here with new feature. Then I'm going to do an extruded cut. And for the direction, I'm going to say I want to go up to a surface. And I can pick this surface right here, this face. Now it's going to try to cut a hole in there, and that's not what I want. So I need to check this box that says flip side to cut. And then I'll hit OK. And that removes that, so that would be my next spot when I get this in the lathe and churn that back. Alright, the last configuration I'm going to make would be the finished part. And I actually don't need to make anymore. I can just use these four. The last one will be the finished part. That'll be this here. So I have everything I need. I have all the configurations I need. So I want to save it again. Now for programming this part, I'm going to start off with my first churn configuration. And I see I get an error here. It's a cosmetic thread. I'm going to hit OK. And if I go over to my features manager, you'll see, oh, it's giving me an error up in here, but because that top revolved, I had a cosmetic thread on just to show it. What I can do is just delete that. I don't actually need the cosmetic thread for any reason other than looks. We can show you how to cut a V-groove through this later on as well. So I have the part I want. I'm going to save it again. And now what I can do is I can bring this into DFS or Delcam for SolidWorks and do the programming. So I'm going to click on Delcam for SolidWorks. I'm going to say machine a part. Yes, the current part. I'm going to do MC inch churn. Oh, open. And it brings it in. And you'll see my axis is wrong. But it's, again, it's a simple fix. You just need to make sure that your axis is along the part. So when it's in the stock axis, I just choose the face of where I want it to churn. So I'm going to pick this face. You'll see it's now aligned. I'll say next. It's asking what I want to use. I'm going to use a bounding cylinder. My stock body, I just choose anywhere on it. Back, I'm going to say, oh, I want 1.5 inches of extra material back here. I get this more like it would look in the lathe. The front, I'm going to say, well, maybe I have 10 thousandths in the front. And radially, I'm going to have inch and 5/8 stock. So I want to figure out what the difference is between 1.625 minus 1.25. So I can just type those in and it'll give me the number 3/8. But you'll see that's too much because I actually need to take 3/8 divided by 2. And that gives me the actual size of the stock I'll be putting in there. My material, if I browse in here, is going to be stainless. I'll hit OK. So I have my sizes right, my material, and I'll accept that. My location is correct because we aligned it originally with the stock axis. So I can just accept this. And now it's ready to program. Now I need to face the end off, do the rough churn, and then I'm going to back groove this because the churning tool can't get down in here. We'll let the churning tool come down in a little ways and get some of the material out so it doesn't have to groove out as much, but it won't get all the way down in there. So to start off with, I'm going to go over to the DFS feature tab right here so I can see my part, and then I'm going to go to the Delcam tab up here so I'm in all the Delcam information. And I'm going to do a new feature. And I'm going to do a face. Now hit OK. My location is going to be the end of the part here. Thickness will be the outside of the stock. So in thickness, I pick this face of the stock. And then outer diameter, I pick the outside diameter of my stock. That's to make sure that it comes all the way up to the top of the part here. I'll hit OK, and it will make a toolpath for me. And if I simulate it here, I'm going to turn on my tool and I'm going to simulate it single step. You'll see the tool coming in now. Of course, in the machine it would look more like this. And it faces it off, comes out, moves back. It's using an 80-degree diamond, which is okay. You could change it to 55, but the 80 should be fine. The feeds and speeds are for the stainless. If I were to go into this and look under my results tab, you'll see it's using 275 surface feed and 300 for finishing. It's giving me 8 thousandths chip load and 3 thousandths chip load. Alright, so now I want to do the churn on the outside. I'm going to do a new feature. I'm going to do a churn bore. Okay. My profile I can't really see here, so I'm going to have to get it through my flop downs. I come down here, I see dog leg, click here, I go all the way down, I'm going to find this revolved here, it's the revolve 2. I open that up and I click sketch 5, and you'll see it gives me all the information I need for churning that. And I'll hit OK. Now what it does is it tries to rough and finish it. If I step this through, see it face it off, it'll come up, and it will rough across, rough a few times. Now I can do the front. And then it tries to come in and do a little more in the back, which is fine. Get some material out of there. And then it'll come to the front again and do a little bit more roughing on it. And finishes it off. So this is what it looks like so far here. Let's stop that. And now I'm going to back groove it here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say new feature. And I can say that I want to do a groove. I could do this a couple different ways. I could create some geometry to do the groove, or I could try to do the groove this way. I think really the easiest way to do this would be to make some geometry for this. So I'm going to cancel out of this, and I'm going to make a new sketch that actually I can have come out a little bit further and come up and just really follow this shape. So I'm going to look at this in my front plane. Don't worry that it tipped up like this. It's not a big deal. I just need to be able to get some edges to work off of. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say I want to make a sketch, and I need to tell it a plane to draw on. So I need to go back over to my tree here, and I want to tell it the plane I want to be on. And it looks to me like it's going to be the front plane, or top plane. So I'm going to click top plane. I'm going to create a line, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to come to this point. I want to make sure I'm getting the end point. I'm going to come down to this point, and then I'm going to come over somewhere off my part. I don't want to come off too far, but a little ways. And click. Move back up until I get the dotted line, and click there. Now I'm going to accept that sketch. Now I have a sketch to work with here for my back groove. I'll go back over to my Delcam tab, and I'm going to say new feature, groove, and I'll hit OK. And it asks me I can put in actual information, or in my case I'm going to say from curve. And the curve I want to pick is this one. So what I can do here is have this groove this back. Now I might run into a little bit of a problem where my roughing tool didn't come off far enough, so I might want to edit that sketch and have it come back a little further. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll hit OK, and if I go to my DFS feature tab here, I'll look at it. Looks like it did OK, but I almost guarantee it's going to crash here. When I play this, comes in, and actually it does crash. I can see it a little bit different here, but I will play the first step, play the second one, and now I'm going to come in here with single step finish tool. It finishes to there, and then my grooving is going to come in. And I'll rotate this up a little so you can see it. It's kind of coming in here and cutting this out. Now I think it's just clipping it a little bit. I think it'll be okay for what we're doing. But let's just check it one more time. I don't want to break any tools, so. It's not too bad, but right here it's going to bump it. See how it hits right there? And it comes down. So that's bad. So we're going to go in and I'm going to edit a sketch. So if I go over to my feature manager here, I can come and I can find that sketch for that outer churn. It's Revolve 2. And the Revolve 2 sketch right here, I can have it come out a little bit further. So I'm going to get the part to look a little bit different. I'm not sure if I want to mess with that sketch. So I think I want to copy that sketch onto it, a different plane. So if I go into sketch, I'm going to tell it what plane do I want to be in here? Top plane. Let's look at it again, that sketch. I want to be in the front plane. So I'm going to go to front plane. I'm going to say sketch. I'm going to choose sketch 5, and I'm going to say convert entities, and that gives me that again. And I'll hit OK on that. I'll go back into that and edit it. I don't need this line here. I don't need this one. I really don't even need that front one. And I'm going to get rid of this relationship here, and I'll probably have to get rid of all of them so that this turns blue. And now if I take this point, I can drag it back a little ways. so that it will go past the part. Now I don't need to go too far. I'll bring it back a little here. And you'll see how that now comes out like that off the end of the part. I'll hit OK. And of course that sketch isn't really related to my initial revolve. So what I would do then is I'd go back into the DFS features and I can edit this churn. So if I click churn, the pop-up menu will come up and I'll say edit. And instead of using sketch 5, I'm going to grab this new one. And then you'll see it will come out a little bit further. And I'll hit OK. Now when I do my simulation, it'll face it, it'll rough it, it'll finish it, and then my grooving tool won't collide with anything. Comes over, no problem, comes in to finish it, comes on the other side to finish it, comes across and up, and we're golden, everything's great. Now it is coming in and grooving it off with a 1/4 inch tool, and we want our grooving tool to be the 165 that we actually have. So I'm going to go into the rough pass of Groove 1, double click it, and change my tool. Now really what I'm going to want to do is make sure I'm in the right library for this. So under Managers, I want to make sure my tool crib is set to Tools Inch, and I'll hit OK. Now when I double click on Rough Pass 1, I will double click Tool, and I can find a 165 groove tool. And I'll hit OK. And OK. And that will automatically update the finish tool as well. Now the last step we need to take on this portion is we need to cut it off. So I'm going to do a new feature, cut off. I'm going to hit OK. My location is the end of my part, so I pick here. My width is going to be 0.165 because that's approximately the tool's width. And my outer diameter is here. You'll see that it'll put in the cutoff from up top there. And I'll hit OK. Now the cutoff will be the 165 tool because we told it that. And now when I play everything, it'll come through, groove it, and cut it off. So this is what it will look like after the first step.